So back in Substance Painter, I'm going to make a new project. And I'm going to set it to 2K. Doesn't matter if it's DirectX or OpenGL. I'm going to select my arm guard. And we're good to go to start baking maps and painting. Now you'll see that it only has one texture set list. And we're going to bake everything except for the ID map at 2K. So now we have our maps baked. And I'm going to save a copy of the file. And just like before, I'm going to make a folder. Call it spikes. Make another folder, call it sleeve. And add a fill layer with a bold color into each of them. Alright, so you see that I've made a mask, and now I'm going to the UV chunk fill, and I'm just selecting the sleeve. The same thing with this, I'm making a fill layer, do a bold color, add a mask to the folder, and then under polygon fill, select the UV chunks. So now each folder has a mask, one for the spikes and one for the sleeve. Just like when we did the Ogre itself. And now it's just a matter of playing. I'm going to play with different smart materials. I'll grab a leather, try different materials in this, and of course you'll have to drag it above the color. You can see me changing the texture type, the UV projection, to triplanar. This is a better projection type for a lot of materials. It projects from the top, bottom, and sides. And on any material, you can go to the projection and change it from the UV mapping to triplanar projection. Now when it exports it, it's going to export it to your UV maps. It'll convert it. And I'm just playing with this leather because it's got this kind of pattern to it, but it looks a little busy. So that was all of my materials. Let me try in Smart Materials. Try this for the spikes. Drop it in, drag it above the color. I'll turn off the color. Change the UV projections in different nodes to triplanar. And I literally have hundreds of materials, and there's more you can download for free at Substance Share. And they also have a paid service where you can download from tens of thousands of materials. So your choices are literally limitless. Now that I've changed all the different nodes to triplanar projection, get a better idea what this one looks like. And I'll just keep trying different materials until I get something that I like. And you can even have multiple materials and adjust the opacity of them and mix them together. And I'm just going in and looking at how the projections are set up. And you can see that materials and smart materials can be made of a variety of objects. And setting up triplanar projection. The spikes are pretty complicated, and we did a quick UVing, so triplanar projection is probably going to work best on something like that. And this is what I mean when I joked about that Substance Painter is the only painting program that I love that I'd never paint in. Because I can do so much so quickly with just masks, folders, and smart materials. Here I'm trying an old iron, setting up the triplanar projections on the nodes on it. I'm actually adjusting its opacity to mix it with the other metal material. Now let's go back to the sleeve. Try this leatherette damage. Maybe mix it with something that's darker. Drag the darker material up. Adjust its opacity to mix with the other leather to get some variety. So one of the great reasons for mixing multiple materials is, let's say that one has a grain that you like, or it disturbs the normals and makes a pattern that you like, but you don't necessarily like the color. You can actually mix it, and it will mix not only the color values, but the normal map values as well. It makes for some really interesting combinations. And it's the definition of playing. Here I'll play with the opacity on this to mix it with the spikes. And I'm adding a fill layer here. Just playing with the color. Getting a dark color. And this is just to give dirt. And this is on top of everything else. So I'm just doing a smart mask. Looking for kind of a dirt pattern. To grunge everything up as a whole. I'm using a dark purplish black. I'm going to grab a smart mask and drop it on it. And what that's going to do is it's going to give everything, the sleeve, the spikes, and everything, kind of a coat of dirt. And I do that a lot. I'll put a layer that's above all the folders and add a coating of rust or dirt just to unify things and to make it a little more realistic. So here's this beaten metal, and I'm going to lower its opacity and mix it with these other metals. I'm just looking for something interesting for the spikes. And I could mix dozens of materials. Here's an iron old. Just changing everything to triplanar projection. A little more accurate surfacing. Change its opacity to mix it with the other metals. And if you don't like it, just delete it. Move on. Try something else. It's literally the definition of playing. Try a different method, use overlay. And you'll see me toggling the little dot for visibility for the layer, just to see a comparison. And I'll zoom in and out to make sure it looks good at a distance as well. Now notice during this entire time we've done no painting. And in the old days, I painted all of this by hand, even the normal maps at times. So I'm liking the look of that. I think I've got a final contender here. I'm just playing with different opacity levels with the different metals to see how I want to mix it. Deleting what I don't need. Changing some projections on this to triplanar. Now I'm adding a fill layer here. I'm just playing with different color values. Looking for a rust. Smart mask it with some rust to break up that color. And I changed it to overlay. So you can see it's really about experimenting. The more you play, the more unique results you'll get. And when you're happy with what you have, you just export the textures. And of course, we'll use our OpenGL PBR Metallic Rough. This is the preset I made for you guys, which means it will work in CC3 and iClone and export the textures. So now we have our files for our accessory for all the color. So here I'll go to Create Cloth Hair Accessory, select the object, and there we go. I'm going to center the pivot and then move it into place. And of course you want to check it from all angles. Now, you could parent and weight this object easily, but I'm just going to parent it for now. I think that that's probably enough for an armband. It's staying on the forearm. It's not really on the wrist that much. And just making sure it's where I want it to be. So I'm going to make sure that this is attached to the proper arm bone. Which is the left forearm. Hit OK. Now I could hit transfer skin weights as well, but I think this is simple enough that I won't. But feel free to do so at any time. It'll give the proper weighting for the area it's attached to. So I'm changing the shader for this to PBR and then loading up our maps. Add the roughness. Add the metallic. And I believe I even have a height map which you can put into the displacement if you so choose. Height map grayscale is the option. And there's our accessory. All loaded in. So that's looking pretty good. It's incredibly straightforward and incredibly powerful, having this ability to quickly bring in props. All right, so I'm going to go to the accessories button, hit plus, give it a name, and now I can load it up whenever I choose to. And save a copy of the scene.